Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Brownsville Matters. I'm your host, Dr. W.F. Strong, and I'm delighted to have with us today in the studio Vanessa Lynn. Vanessa Lynn is a model, an actress, a commercial actress, she likes to say, and has a budding career right here in Brownsville in the Rio Grande Valley. But she's also done beauty pageants around the world, so she's got a lot of experience internationally as well. Welcome, Vanessa Lynn.
Hi, thank you. Good morning.
Great to have you. So I guess the interesting thing for me is always with people who have the kind of background that you have at this point is how did this begin? When did you say, I want to be a model?
I guess it kind of stuck with me since I was a child. I was literally the little girl, like, my father gave me a camera one year and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do something. And we built sets. We literally we would put our little dolls and all of our little stuffed animals, and that was our audience. Mm-hmm. Me and my siblings. I have a lot of siblings.
So this was, this was before YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Before YouTube. So before we even had, it was a camcorder, and then I had my, what is it called? Polaroid camera.
Polaroid camera.
So I would take my little shots. I still have a ton of them. So I think it's funny because that's how I started. So I would take pictures of my siblings and I'm like, dude, we gotta do this. Take this. We're gonna make a video of this. We had our Barbies, and it started from that, playtime. So it was something that I liked, and then I started realizing, like, a lot of things didn't catch my attention like other things. Did the whole college thing. I feel like I just kind of hung out in school. It wasn't my thing. I mean, I still went, got my degree certification that I needed. Everything was fun, but I feel like I never really enjoyed what I was doing.
Right.
And then it actually started with something personal. It was more I went through, like, my postpartum depression, which I was in denial with. I kind of was like, no, I don't have that. And then that's when my therapist told me straight up, she's like, you need to do something for yourself. And I was like, I don't do anything for myself. And she's like, you need to. And I was like what? And she's like, find something for you. And that's when I started at the gym. And from there.
At Gold's Gym?
At Gold's Gym in Harlingen.
So you started in what way? Just working out?
No, in general. I actually walked in there and I asked the guy, I was like, hey, how do I get a free membership? And he started laughing at me. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, I haven't joined a gym, never really been in one, don't know anything about it, like, but I don't want to pay, because when I saw the prices, I was like, I'm not paying $150 for this.
So you didn't want to have to pay Gold's Gym.
So I tried to find my way around it, basically. And he told me, he's like, well, you can work here. He's like, that's the only way you can get a free membership. And I was like, work here? What do you mean? And I had just had my daughter, so I was a stay-at-home mom at that time. So I hadn't really thought about leaving her because I was super attached. She was my first little one.
Of course, yes.
And I was very nervous to go be the working mom, but I was like, let's do it. And then finally I kind of went, enjoyed the whole work life because, again, it was more whenever I was working in the gym, I got to meet a lot of people. And being in the gym setting, you meet people who want to change themselves. Like, when they walk in there, and I walked in, they put me to do sales, and I guess it was more when I walked in, I sold myself, and the guy was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, here, you got a job. And I was a sales rep.
So then did you get people who say, how do I get a free membership?
No, they asked me what I can do to help them. And I told them, I was like, I can help you. Like, before that, I was doing health coaching again. So it was something that I was used to, but I kind of had stopped doing. So kind of being in that environment was where I felt most comfortable because I felt like this was like my safe space.
Right.
As for my therapist, it was like my alone time, my personal space. And that's kind of what I would tell people, because since I was a salesperson, I'm like, why do you come in here? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, a lot of people walk in here and then they don't come back. You know what I'm saying? Like, they'll sign up, they'll pay for a membership and then leave. And I'm like, what are you here for? Like, what are your goals? And they're like, nobody's ever asked me that. And I was like, write it down. And that was kind of my thing. I tried to make it like a reason for them to show up.
So were you coaching people in terms of their actual workout, or was yours more like an inspirational coach to guide their psychological
I guess it was more
approach?
Inspirational, because I wasn't part of the PT team at the time. So I was more just kind of explaining to them like my side and how I was told like, hey, you should do this for yourself. So I was kind of like trying to help them do the same, trying to push them to do better. And then since I was there, like, they would go and see me every day, you know, and like it was like a little friendship or relationship with a lot of people. And I feel like because of it, I became more comfortable. And it was right. Like, my therapist made me realize like I needed to kind of push myself out there, because when I was at home, stay-at-home mom, you kind of get trapped in this little bubble where you don't do anything but be mom. And then you get mad at everybody because you're just being mom. And that's when I was like, I can't do that. You can't like project yourself onto others, you know? So that's when like I realized I had to do something for myself. And then actually like a week later, it was prior to my birthday, they came and posted up this poster for a beauty pageant. And I was the one taping it up, and the lady's like, oh, we're going to be doing this project. If you want to participate, She's like, the cutoff age is 25 or 26. I think it was 26. And I was like, oh, I turned 26, like, right after. And she was like, it's okay, you can still participate. And I was like, I'm too old to participate in the pageant. I've never done one. And she was like, well, you can try. So it kind of stuck in my head, right? And so I'm there at work, and one of the trainers is like, why don't you participate? I was like, because I've never done that. Like, I'm not that girly. So I was like...
So was this a true classic beauty pageant, or was this the sort of thing they have at Gold's where it's a fitness model competition, where it's
it was
bodybuilding?
Actually, it's called the Miss Frontera Latina.
Okay.
It was a beauty pageant here, but they had, since Gold's was one of their sponsors, they had one of the, I guess, activities you would say,
right,
was a physique.
Okay.
So to me, I was like, cool, let me try. And at first I was nervous because, again, I had never participated. I didn't know what I was going to walk into. I was thinking that you're going to walk in and everybody's just like supermodel, and just, I had no idea.
Did they have talent also?
We did. We had to, which that was even more nerve-wracking for me because, again, I was used to just kind of being in my own little bubble. But basically, I participated in this pageant. I was the oldest, which was weird, and I was the only mom. But it was kind of cool because we did like a fitness competition. And I guess being that I work out because of my job, I actually won the fitness part, and I got a free membership at Gold's again. So that was funny. That was one of the prizes. And I was like, great, I don't have to pay another year. But it was because of the beauty pageant. But see, whenever I joined the beauty pageant, I kind of was more weirded out, I guess you can say, because I thought, when you walk in, I had the perception that all these girls are, like, stuck up. I was thinking the worst. Because in my head, I was like, they're too pretty to talk to people. You know what I'm saying? That was just how I felt.
So now you know how guys feel.
Yeah, I guess you can say I saw her from a different angle. And I walked in there, and I was just like, oh, wow, like from the teens, because they had different categories at that time. So it was like, I felt intimidated walking into that room because they were all just lined up, and I was like, oh man, I'm the oldest, I'm a mom, horrible. But I was like, let's just have fun with it. And well, when you're sitting there, everybody starts introducing themselves and saying, oh, I'm so-and-so, and their story. And I felt like a lot of them were in there, and we're all kind of in there for the same reason. We kind of needed to find ourselves. And I felt like that's what it was. I felt like it was more... When we were in there, we all got to speak to each other, kind of let out some things. And then it was like we kind of found our reason why we were here. And we made little events and participation things where we would do runways and stuff like that. So we all got to dress up, feel pretty for the day. They had people doing your makeup, hair, everything. And then photo shoots all day. So I was like, of course a girl's going to love doing this. Like, they feel like a little queen for the day.
So it's back to your room where you were creating scenes for yourself.
Exactly. So whenever I was in there, I was like, this is literally what I wanted. Like, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be where you're kind of helping people, but you're also doing something for yourself, but you're making everything a little prettier. Not necessarily like physically, but just like you're making them feel pretty too, because a lot of people kind of shrink down a lot.
Right.
Depending on situations. And I know a lot of people go through things because for some weird reason my friends come to me for a lot. I'm like, why do you come for me for advice? I have not one good relationship under my belt. But they tell me everything. But I feel like it's more that.
Were most of them in the pageants for something to do in terms of something positive and creative? Were they also there for building self-esteem?
I think it was mostly the self-esteem, to be honest. Because, like I tell you, when I sat in that room, I felt like everybody had something not negative to say, but what broke them, really. And I felt like they were there trying to find that spark again.
Right.
So whenever I was sitting there, I was just like, wow, like, I'm not the only one. That's kind of how I felt. So whenever I started doing that, it was a process because that pageant wasn't where I've done international pageants and it's like a few days and that's it. You have like a day to do this, a day to do that, an event here and an event there. But here it was like a whole month process. So it was like one weekend we did an event, the next weekend we were doing some charity event or volunteer work, the next we were learning how to walk, the next we were speaking to a certain speaker and they would kind of like break down certain things, just spiritual things and a lot of different things really.
So how did you go from there to the international?
Well, technically, because at that pageant, although I didn't win, I got runner-up. And they asked me, they signed me that year for a modeling agency, and with the agency, they offered if I wanted to participate in Peru. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I've never even gone out of the country. Well, lies, I've been to Mexico, but it's right here. Right. But I'm like, to me, I'd never been anywhere like that far. So I was like by myself. Again, I have a little girl at this time. She was a baby. So I was like, I don't know. I was freaking out. But then I was like, well, if I can figure it out, I'll go. And she's like, well, you got 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, snap.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's like, you got 2 weeks to figure it out because we have to pay this, the next amount. And I was like, well, let me figure it out. And honestly, I didn't think it was going to happen.
What did your mother say?
My mother was more, she just told me, she's like, do whatever you want. My parents are more like, do what you like.
Do what you like.
Because they know I'm still going to do it anyway. I guess that's their thing. They know that if they tell me no, I'm going to be the curious kid to find out for myself. So they let me do my thing. But I guess it was more, once I started to participate and they saw that it was kind of bringing me back to life instead of being my little depressive state where it kind of was, like I said, back to the postpartum. They saw that I was actually enjoying myself. I went back to being me where I would post that selfie all the time and then they would make fun of me. They're like, oh, you're the selfie queen. And I was like, yes. I was like, nah, I feel like myself. I feel pretty. I was like, even when I don't necessarily look it, I feel pretty.
So it did bring you back.
Yeah.
It brought you back to you.
And that's what I told my mom. I was like, I feel like I needed to do that. I was so scared. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm crying. I was really nervous and more because I was like, what if I go to Peru and something happens? I was thinking the worst.
Like what? What were you worried about? What something happens? What do you mean?
Just like, I assume the worst at all times.
Okay, so you're not talking, you weren't talking about just the possibility of losing the pageant. It was just something dangerous.
Yeah, I was just more nervous because I had never been out of the country like that. So I was just like, what if something happens? What if I lose my pack? Mind you, I didn't get the permission. Like, you're supposed to get a permiso. Right. And I didn't know that. And I flew out of Reynosa, technically. So I walked in real cool. They didn't even check my passport or anything. They just let me in. So I didn't think anything of it. And then I get to Mexico City and they're like, we need your permission. And I was like, for what? They're like, well, to cross into Peru. And I was like, where do I get that? And they're like, oh, you have to do this. I was like, my flight is right now. Like, I can't go. They're like, well, you got to do this. I actually was stuck there for 8 hours in Mexico City getting a permiso and then flew out.
So you had to go to the Peruvian embassy to get it?
No. It was actually in Mexico City. It was just like a permission to be in their country. Yeah. But you have to pay like a little fee. And
but a lot of times to get those permisos, you have to go to the actual embassy of the country.
They had one inside the airport.
That's good. Yeah.
Thankfully.
That was.
I was so embarrassed. I was like, I didn't even know this. And they were like, how did you get here? I was like, on the plane? What do you mean?
But, the great thing about things like that is it also builds your confidence. You see, I had a problem, I solved it.
And it was also kind of fun being there by myself.
Sure.
Like, not necessarily with no clothes because all my stuff was still on the other plane. But I was just like, wow, like, same how you said, like, I had to figure it out. And nobody was there to help me, so I had no other option than to figure it out by myself.
So you got to Peru, and did you have trouble breathing?
I did not, actually.
That's what a lot of people
And everybody's like, oh, yeah, they were giving me hard candies. Actually, the thing that I thought was random was they were giving me the little lemon heads. And they're like, have this because the acid in it will help you. And I was like, help me for what? I wasn't understanding at the time. And they're like, oh, did your ears pop? And I'm like, why? But I was like, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I didn't feel it. But I probably when I fell asleep on the plane. Because it was a long plane ride.
So where was the pageant? What city?
It was in Lima.
It was in Lima. Okay.
It was in Lima, Peru. And it was pretty cool because...
Over 10 days.
10 days. Participating in different events. And then we had where we got to go.
And what was this one called? Was this the...
No, this was for the Belleza Americana.
Okay.
Nuestra Belleza Americana.
And then, so you placed in this pageant?
Not in this one.
Not in this one. Okay. What was your next one? Your next international one?
The international was going to be the Miss Turismo Mundial, which is a Miss Tourism World, which I actually won the title for and brought to the United States, which was awesome.
Congratulations, yes.
That was from Aruba, and it was pretty cool. And actually, the same agency that I work with, they sent the girl after me, and she's now the queen. So
she's now the queen.
So now we have the
two right here.
Yep.
That was in Aruba?
Yes, in Aruba.
And also the same thing, like 10 days or so?
I want to say for them it was 2 weeks.
And what was the difference? Now that pageant brings women from all over the world, and you promote tourism for your area. Is that the way it works?
Yes, technically with this one, I had to do a whole emporium of like the United States and kind of like inviting other countries and explain to them why they should come visit us. Because I feel like they kind of, to them it was more, they want you to explain what it is that you do and why. And at that time, I was actually working on the island with, I just went blank on the name.
You're working on South Padre Island.
Yes, I was working on South Padre Island.
With the chamber or promotion?
No. With boat rentals. And this company was basically, they're building a reef, and they're using old ships and sinking them, but they were creating a reef so that we have like coral and different animal come this way. So I was explaining to them what we were doing, and I thought that was really awesome because I had no idea that was even going on until I worked there. And I was like, we live here and there's so much awesome things going on that we don't speak on.
Were you promoting just this area or the United States of America?
Well, no, I was trying to do more of the whole United States, but I was trying to explain more the RGV in Texas in general because that's where I'm from.
Sure.
And that's what I told them. I was like, to me, Texas is the best. I will be a little biased. No, but it's more for the sake that, I mean, I've been here. Thankfully, with my jobs, I've gone to travel, so I have gone to 35 different states. So to me, I think that's great. I've seen our country, but I feel like my home is here. So I would invite them here. And at that point, it's like, since we have different things here, I kind of explained, like, this is what we do here, which I thought was funny. Everybody brought up the Alamo, and I was like, oh, great.
Everybody knows the Alamo.
Yeah, and in my head, I was like, you couldn't bring anything else up? But then I was like, well, it's Texas, so I guess that made sense.
It's the most famous tourist spot in Texas. Everybody goes there and are often shocked that it's so small.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot bigger things in Texas, but they don't know them yet. And that's what I was trying to explain to them. I was like, you're missing out on all the cool stuff. I was like, I'll show you around, though, whenever you're ready.
After that, then you've got your self-confidence back. And this has built you into a good, healthy human being. And so you're still working out at Gold's Gym?
I work out there, but technically I work at a different gym. I work for Perfect Body in Harlingen.
Right. But the point is that you're working on you.
Yes.
You're still building your physical fitness.
I feel like it's stuck with me because I did kind of lose myself again because I technically had another little kid. I have a 2-year-old son now. So it's like after my babies, it's like I felt like I needed to get back to myself. And I feel like being in the fitness industry helped not only for the physical side.
Did you go through the postpartum depression with your second child?
I feel like with him I did, but at this point I acknowledged it.
Okay.
I recognized what was going on because in the beginning I didn't. That was a problem, and I feel like a lot of people don't recognize signs when they're going through a lot of different things, not just necessarily
they only recognize it a year after the fact. They say, oh, I think I was going through that, right?
That, or even people, like, when they get in depressed moments or like have anxiety moments, they don't want to acknowledge it, but it's like, you kind of have to, no, it's okay. Like, it's okay.
So the second time, then you worked your way through it through pumping iron?
Necessarily, yeah, but it was more too, I learned more on the nutrition side. So I started watching more what I was eating or consuming in general because I felt like even just classes I was going to learn extra things, like they were explaining what you shouldn't eat because how it affects your brain and how it affects your heart, this and the other.
Were you overweight before?
No, I was not actually. I was always kind of underweight. But with my first child, my daughter, I was overweight. With her, I gained a lot. I was 174, 75 whenever I gave birth to her. I was used to being 90 pounds. So that was like double myself.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And I think that was in general why I kind of lost myself because I didn't feel like me.
So what did you do to lose that weight? Was this aerobics?
No, it was... I actually hate cardio. I'm not a cardio person. I rather lift weights. And then when I was told, if you lift heavier, you're technically burning the same count. I was like, what? That's when I was like, I gotta do this.
You gotta do that.
So it was kind of like, no, I would just push myself. And I guess it was more, I would do cardio, but different. I was more like the Stairmaster or doing rows for days. So I was just super tired. But it worked for me.
But you do free weights?
Yeah, I do more of the free weights. I rather do free weights. I feel like I feel more comfortable, or resistance bands. I feel like it's easier because you focus more on like the actual muscle instead of like, oh my God, I'm holding this wrong kind of thing.
Do you have leg day, chest day? Do you have a routine that you work at? Are you 4 days a week, 3 days a week? What's typical for you?
I prefer the 4 because I feel like whenever I don't, I regret it. But for the most part, I actually try to do it every single day. except Sunday.
Are you like most women? You prefer leg day to chest day?
I always do legs and back. I really don't focus on my other muscles because I know that whenever you're working out your legs, you're always working out your core. And as a short person, because I'm 5 feet, I feel like I work on my chest and my back a lot, but my back more so because it kind of gives me more of my form. I'm a petite person, so I like to kind of give myself shape. If not, I just look like a really skinny, tiny girl. And I'm very petite, so working on my legs to me was priority because I felt like I used to have little skinny legs, and after that, they got a little thicker, and I was like, hey, I have a little body now. Parenting totally helped.
If you give advice to, and I'm sure you do this a good deal, you give advice to women who are wanting to get in shape, what do you tell them? Where do you begin? What do you focus on?
What they eat.
Okay.
And I say that because you can work out all day, but if you're working out and eating crap, your stomach's just not going to agree with it.
Okay. Well, what do you eat?
I focus more on my greens. I try to eat, like whenever I walk into, whether it's HB, Walmart, whichever location you're at, I walk into the store and I avoid the aisles. I don't like anything that really has an expiration date because I know it's man-made and it's fake. So your body doesn't process it. I try to avoid all of that. I just try to get fruits and veggies and my proteins, which is my meats of whatever sort. I like to cook, so to me I'll make whatever and invent meals all day, but just kind of depends on what they like.
Like, do you cook stir fry? What do you cook?
Oh, yeah. Me, no, I'm more like my basics. I like jasmine rice, my salmon and asparagus, or I'll have my chicken. I don't necessarily like chicken. I feel like when I was pregnant, that's all I ate. Chicken.
Do you lean toward vegetarianism? Do you eat red meat?
I guess it was more like pescatarian. Let me say it that way. Because
like what?
Pescatarian. I feel like I'd rather eat seafood over everything else.
Oh, I see. Okay. I hadn't heard that word before. Did you make that up, or is that?
No, that's actually
that's
a term.
Word. I've never heard that. Yeah. So you eat a lot of fish and vegetables. That's right. And then, but what about red meat? Do you avoid it?
I do consume it, but I try to avoid it because I know it's not necessarily healthy for you. They've made a high sales pitch with it, but it's not good for you. All the cholesterol is not good for you, and people forget that a calf is made big. It's made into a cow by its mother's milk. He's not eating anything else, and people forget that. I'm like, you have to remember and realize what you're putting into your body.
And also all the corn-fed beef.
Oh, yeah.
The corn.
Don't get me wrong, I love me a good steak.
Oh, yeah.
But I try not to eat it all the time. And then it's hard here in the valley. We have the little taquitos, all the great snacks.
It's the worst place in the world to try to lose weight.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's why I push what I do, because I'm like, no, you got to be somewhat healthy, guys. Come on. We have marranadas, for God's sakes. I didn't even know that was a thing until I heard that. I was like, what is that? And then they're like, it's this with this inside and this inside. I was like, oh, man, that's a heart attack waiting to happen.
But the other nice thing about working out and working out hard is that you at least give yourself permission to cheat a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So you can enjoy the guilty pleasure.
I guess it's more on leg day.
On leg day.
Because what I always tell people that go work out at our gym, I was like, when it's leg day, that's kind of your cheat day. But you want to eat within the first 30 minutes. If not, it's not going to the muscle. It's going straight to fat. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, you got to feed your muscle. I was like, that's when I'll eat a whole pizza box for myself. They're like, are you serious? I was like, I'm little, but I can eat. I can eat.
I remember once reading, this is one of the great shocks in my life, when I read a title of a book. It was called Abs Are Built in the Kitchen.
I actually know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. And that was an epiphany for me. I thought, what?
Yeah. Everybody has abs. They're just under fat.
I thought it was done through sit-ups, so that you could do it with food. Really?
I literally don't work on my abs. And when I do, they pop out. But necessarily I don't. It's what I eat. And I guess because I try to eat more like lean meats in general, like ground turkey, or I hate pork chops because I just like them. But the chicken and the seafood, it's more... So
the abs are there. You just have to uncover them.
Necessarily, that's what it is. Everybody has abs. Poke your stomach. They're right there.
Just get rid of the adipose tissue, and you can see them, right?
I was like, they're there. You just gotta watch what you eat, really.
So from all these pageants and everything, I'm following the evolution of Vanessa Lynn, and so from the pageants and everything, then you began to get into
modeling,
advertising, modeling, commercial acting. Voice acting, a lot of different things. So what are you into now?
Right now I'm focusing more on like the modeling part of it, But I did start doing more music videos, and recently, just Monday actually, I shot one with a friend, and it was fun because when I got to do more of the acting side, I was like the disgruntled mother, or not mother yet, mother to be, but he had no idea, and I was about to tell him. Had to throw a sandwich at the guy, and everything was great. But I was like, I love this. I love being dramatic sometimes. I'm getting paid for it.
Now this was part of a training video?
No, this one was for a music video. I've done training videos like for Doctors Hospital of Renaissance here in Edinburgh and McAllen area. I'm part of their little training for all the newcomer nurses, actually. My young brother, he's one of the head nurses here at Valley Regional, and he was like, I saw you in the training video. It was super weird. I was like, you're supposed to be excited. He's like, I was, but it was weird when they're like, hey, isn't that your sister? I was like, yes.
So you do training videos, and then you do the
music
commercial
videos.
Advertising videos.
Yes, and the commercials for like Texas State.
And sometimes you have voice work, and sometimes you're just
Sometimes
you're
I'm just the
model.
face.
You're the model.
Or like for Frontier Airlines, I was a little one. It's like, hi guys, the little teller girl. So, but they're here even for the Harlingen Airport as well. Did a little commercial there. So fun times.
You get this work through your agency?
It's more I put myself out there. I've got some work with agencies before, but I've also done more of myself where like I keep up with whoever's doing casting calls or anything of that nature, and like I try to follow certain pages and people that I know who do the commercials. And I feel like because I'm always looking for work, because I am a single mother, I do always try to keep busy. So I'm always running around doing something. And that's what
But how do you promote yourself?
How it's more social media.
Social media you do it?
I feel like I focus more on social media. And at first, I didn't think much of social media because I was just always on it, like playing on the phone. Until I started realizing I can make money from social media. And I started to monetize all of my things. And that's when I was like, okay, if I can get paid to post, why not? And it started becoming like a job, but more of a fun time.
So are you beginning to work toward that space called an influencer?
In a sense, but I hope like if it gets to that point that it's for something beneficial. And again, since I work in the gym setting, I do want to help push that for people. I want to help them. I don't care if you don't show up to my gym. I care if you're doing something for yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you did something good, like I get to smile for that. Because you're going to think of it.
Isn't it true that about half of people who pay for a gym don't go to a gym?
And I can tell you the months I stopped going.
What are the months?
They all go in the beginning of the month, January and February, because they want to look great for Valentine's Day. Then they kind of stop right after like spring break time because spring break happened. And then they'll be back for summer, work out again, stop, come back a little before Thanksgiving. So they look up for the holidays. After the holidays, everybody's like, I'm done. I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't have that, because they're spending on holiday things, which I get. But I was like, trust me, I've worked in gym settings. I know the pattern. I know when they'll be back.
I've been going to gyms for
I've had a membership and I
years.
didn't go for a year, and they're like, why you signed up? I was like, honestly, I forgot.
Well, I've been pretty reliable about going to gyms for many, many years. At least I'm not trying to beef up, just trying to maintain. I'm trying to
You always gotta stay healthy.
keep a reasonable fitness. And the thing that I've always noticed is that in early January, the population in the gym swells, but it's only for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And my belief is a lot of people come and hit it too hard, and they make themselves sore, and then they don't want to come back.
But I love that feeling.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like when you're sore, you know you actually worked out.
If you are an experienced gym rat,
I always tell everybody, I was like,
it.
if you're not sore, you didn't do anything. They're like, it's because I counted. I was like, I don't count. I just kind of keep going. I was like, I just do it till I feel something, and then I'm like, okay, do it again.
But
it's like the rush.
As one who works in gym, though, don't you think that's right? Some people, they just get sore and they say, oh, no.
Not only that, I've seen people, like, for example, I've worked in gym settings where I've had my desk right in front of the equipment, and when I'm sitting there, I've literally seen people give up because they're like, I don't know how to do this, but they're too afraid or ashamed to ask somebody for help.
That's true.
And it's more like you literally see their face where they're like trying to read the machine, Google something, and they're like, I don't know how to do that. And instead of asking somebody, because they're like, what do they charge me kind of thing? And that's literally what I assume, because I'm like, why else wouldn't you ask? But they don't ask, and then I see them leave. Or like they'll do something else, and then after that they leave, and then they don't come back. And to me, that's why I always tell people, like, don't be afraid to ask somebody. Like, we're here for that reason. I don't care if you think it's like a stupid question. Like, I'd rather show you something instead of one, you hurting yourself, Or I was like, so you leave. I was like...
I think you're right. I think a lot of people just don't want to be embarrassed by not knowing.
Yeah.
I've seen people at the gym that are obviously confused by a machine, and I will go tell them, how it works. And
or I've had people get kind of mad.
I remember one guy, I showed him, it was kind of an unusual machine. I showed him how to get into the machine, and then I said, and then you push this bar here, and then he said, I thought the exercise was just getting in the machine. He said that was quite
that was a workout itself.
That's quite an ordeal just fitting in here.
That's hilarious.
I'm all stretched now, But they do have so many, and the other things I like about the gym is that as you get accustomed to them, you can create your own unique exercises. And I see people sometimes doing something. I'll see them across the way. I said, I like what they're doing. That's not the way that machine works, but I like it.
Yeah, like a lot of people use the different pulley machines, and they come up with creative ideas. And I'm just like, that's awesome, because you're working out like different parts of your body, and like you can't do that with a specific machine.
Yeah.
Or I've seen some ladies come up with random machines with other equipment, and I'm like, you could do leg workouts and butt workouts with that one, but they work.
Yeah, they do. They can be
kind of
creative
interesting
with those machines. And then the free weights, of course, give you lots of options as well. And then you got people that are kind of divided between those that are free weight people and those that are machine people.
And also the group classes. We have those who are like stuck on certain classes, and they're like, I'm only doing this, this, and this. Okay.
How many classes? Well, of course, lots and lots of different classes these days. It seems like every month there's a new fad of some new type of class. But some people really like the classes. I think the group pressure helps them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Like at the gym I'm currently at, we focus more like on group trainings. And they ask me, they're like, why do you prefer that over one-on-ones? I'm like, honestly, because I feel like when you're doing a one-on-one, sometimes you're completely focused, or other times you're just kind of like, I don't want to do what he tells me. But when you're in a group setting, like you have so-and-so over here, so-and-so over there, even if it's just like 2 or 3 people, like you have them doing it, so you're like, well, I want to do better than her. Oh, I can't. Like, why is she doing this and I can't? So you push yourself, like in general. So I feel like when you have like a little buddy system, it works. When you want to work out by yourself for a certain reason, that's okay too. But I feel like it's always fun to have somebody there with you, kind of pushing you, even just like to talk with.
If there's a young lady out here listening, or a young man listening to you and say, I want to do what she's doing. I want to get into modeling. I want to get into voice acting, whatever. Where do they begin?
I've actually been asked quite a few times. I send them a lot with one of the agencies I previously worked with. But I also have a lot of friends who do different things. Like I have friends who are in the music industry, others who do mostly their art, others who are focused on like photography, videography, depending on what they're doing. And then I have other friends who are trying to like do more of the podcast thing. So it's like whenever I'm speaking to them, I'm like, what is it that you want? What do you want to do? Like, what is it that you actually like? Because again, I feel like a lot of people hide themselves and they don't tell you everything. So I try to explain to them, I was like, look, if you want me to help you, I need to know what it is that you truly want to do. And I was like, and then I always point them in the direction that I can. And I mean, the rest is really up to them. But I always tell my friends especially, like, don't be afraid. Because I've been in situations like, I was so afraid to go to Peru. Like, I literally was afraid. And my mom was like, just do it. And I was like, right? Like, why am I not? Like, everything else. I've had so many opportunities in my life. Every time I traveled, I've never once paid for it because of my job. Like, I got everything paid for. And it was because I accepted a job that gave me that chance. And that's what I told my mom. I was like, I've always just kind of took a random risk and done it. Same for that pageant. They're like, you got 2 weeks, figure it out. And I did. I got sponsors. They helped me. I actually stayed with more money than I thought I was going to get. And I was like, great, I got spending money. You know, it was cool. Like, It was something I wasn't expecting, but it was because I kind of learned to get out there and stop being shy. I went and I had to ask people, like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with whatever amount? And, like, I had to explain what I was doing to them and, like, my purpose. And so it was something fun for myself, but it was, like, my way of getting back out there. But, again, it was more like, okay, I finally took a risk. And that's what I try to tell everybody, like, stop being afraid to do something that you want to do, like, because a lot of us kind of hold back because we're waiting on that, oh, what if it doesn't happen or what's going to fail? And, like, who cares if it fails? At least you did it, you know? I was like, try. So I try to help them, whether it's by giving a referral to somebody else or, like, if I can do something for them, I'll do it for them. And a lot of my friends actually recently started working with me. And it's funny because it's, like, recently a lot of my old high school friends who used to do media tech with me and stuff of that nature, they're like, hey, we want to try this. I was like, well, let's do it. Let's come up with our ideas. And I feel like right now that's actually what we're doing. We have a lot of things in the writing process, but more things, just ideas, but we're going to make them happen.
It is amazing how fear is the great killer
Oh,
of
yeah.
dreams, isn't it?
And fear is man-made. Fear is fed to you when you're born by somebody who's afraid of something else.
I wonder how many great books, how many great songs have not been produced out of fear that they would be judged or they would be harshly criticized.
Pageant, that was my job. I was standing when they're being judged.
Yeah.
That's when I learned to stop being afraid, seriously. Because I was like, wow, I'm here to be judged on how I look, how I walk, how I talk, everything. Mind you, one time I was doing the Miss Texas Belleza Latina in Austin. Horrible. I lost a shoe midway. It was great, but it was everything that could go wrong in a pageant happened to me. I almost tripped. It was horrible. It was funny. But I was like, yeah, I'm here for the experience, guys. Hi. It was fun.
And that was good for you because you realized life went on.
Yeah,
it wasn't the end of the world.
I had my sister up there with me and my two best friends, so it was great. We got to hang out afterwards in Austin. And I showed them around because I used to live there like for my college years. So I was like, hey guys, let me show you that. So to me, it was a win-win regardless. It was fun though.
I'll tell you something that happened to me when I was, it was a long time ago, I was about 30 years old, and I was roped into doing a modeling show. I mean, it was very amateurish and everything. They just wanted a bunch of guys to be in this show, to be sold as bachelors, you know.
Oh,
so you're supposed to, I don't know, they gave us some outfits, and we were paraded up and down the stage, and it was horrible. I mean, I just hated it, but you know, I was roped into it, and I went through with it. But the thing that I found most difficult was just walking in a way that
I've actually had to really
sense.
tie like your hands like this, like your arms behind your back, so you learn how to walk with your chest out and straight. And everybody's like, why are you doing that? I was like, because that's how you're technically supposed to walk when you're on a runway. And they're like, there's a way? I was like, there's literally a way. I was like, even the way you move your hips and everything. I was like, there's specific ways, and people don't know that. Some people just walk and they're having fun with it. But I'm like, when you do it, there's a specific way, and they teach you, and it's really difficult. You have girls lined up, and they still can't even walk in a line together. It's pretty funny.
Well, even to this day, I'm fine with doing voice acting, with doing vocalics for advertising, etc. But if they want to put me on camera, it's a whole different world. I say I have to walk and chew gum at the same time. This is not going to work.
It's not my cup of tea.
So I'm much more comfortable in this environment.
But you have that voice.
I prefer just to stick with that. I prefer to stick with that, yes. Well, listen, thanks a lot for coming in. I've enjoyed talking to you, Vanessa.
Likewise.
Thanks for watching this BSPA video. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you like what you see. And if you really like what you see, go ahead and go to our website, brosoperformingarts.org, and smash the donate button. And then we'll really like you too.